As always, it's wonderful to be with you. I'm very grateful to be here and to be with you. I think I got enough leash here to move around. I'm glad I command your attention through enthusiasm and not by like directly commanding your attention. You listen to me and listen now. I don't know if I appreciate the generosity of the introduction. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the generosity of this community, and I'm grateful to be here. And Gene, the generosity of your heart, and I'm already healed this morning just by hearing you say, and then you sang, but I heard you first say, I was born to do what I'm doing. And that's spiritual liberation. That's a life on purpose, and that's a liberated life. And I beg to say that is, if not the top, one of the very top things that each of us aspire to, is knowing that we're being and doing what we were here to be and do. And I think part of that's a choice as well. And part of that has to do with clearing away the gunk, the human, what's the stuff that never mind. The stuff. I'm like, it's not like lint, it's not filth, but it sounds like it. It's like the gunk, the human gunk, the stuff that we just accumulate over the course of time. There is a definite word for this, and I don't know what it is. So, but anyway, just the stuff that we accumulate, the ways that we stop being ourselves, the ways that we take on being something else. So I'd like to start here, actually. So I asked Peggy earlier what the theme of my talk was, because I couldn't remember. Is it up there? I don't even know what it is, but I know what I'm going to talk about, I think, or at least I know where I'm going to start, and then we'll see where it goes. But what I would like is for each of you, just for a moment, to consider what's the biggest prayer that's on your heart right now. Where would you like to have, you don't have to say anything. This is just very private within your own mind, within your own being. Where are you ready for some sort of psychic shift or a revolution of your heart or a breakthrough someplace where perhaps you felt like you're in jail in your own mind? I mean, I've got a laundry list inside of mine, and then maybe some of them will come out as I share. But where are you ready to be more of yourself? Where are you ready to be free? Just consider that for a moment, would you? That is what I would like for you to just be. You don't have to consciously be aware of it the whole time, but if you would bring that place, that space, that idea to the mantle of your heart and just place it there right now. Just place it there and then let go. And what I intend, and my interest and my commitment in being with all of you this morning, is that something happens for you in the privacy of your own heart. That if a psychic shift is necessary, that it actually happens. And if it doesn't fully happen, it at least takes root this morning. That if a revolution of your heart is necessary, that if the entire revolution doesn't take place, at least it takes root, at least a seed is planted. Because what is this spiritual path if not about actual change? And what is the thing that's most in the way except ourselves? And we project ourselves onto the world and make it look like the resistance is out there. But I heard a long time ago, and I'm so grateful that I heard this, is that the only relationship we ever have is the one with ourselves. That's it. That's the only relationship there is. Everything else is like a holographic projection. Anybody watch Star Trek back in the day? The holodeck, right? It's all a holographic projection of what's happening inside of my consciousness. That's a word we throw around a lot in these spiritual circles, isn't it? Consciousness. What is it? It's the activity of my thinking. And it's the tendency of my thought and the general feeling that I walk around in life with. I became aware about a year ago or so that one of the general feelings that I walk around in life with is anxiety. I didn't ever think it. I didn't ever, I was powering through ministry. I was, a young minister and not to sound weird or anything, I was kind of a young superstar minister. I'd been tapped by some of the biggest people in New Thought to like come do stuff. And, I was like, yeah, I got a big fat whiff of myself. I got a big fat whiff of myself from a very young age. And I rolled with it. And everything was easy. And I just kept going from this to that and this to that and having a really good time. And then things got hard. Then they got hard. And I didn't really have an opportunity to just sit and be still with what was really happening inside of me, because I was just going with the flow of everybody else's idea about my life. Everybody else's idea about who I should be, how I should show up, how I do show up, what's good for me. But I didn't, even if I was encouraged to spend time inside of myself, I didn't really get it until I finally started to wake up and realize that one of the tones that I walk through life with is anxiety. What is that anxiety? It's an awareness that I hadn't really taken the time to find out, who am I? Where do I really come from? I came out of my mom's tummy, but where was I before that? I used to ask my daughter, hey, babe, do you remember where you came from? Like from when she was small, like, you got any insight? She's like, Dad, I don't remember. I'm like, okay. But I was trying to get the dish. Do you remember where you were before Mom? Because, like, where did you come from, babe? Mom's tummy. What about before that? You remember? No. And that's part of the game, gang. We don't remember. But part of the spiritual path, a big part of it is what? Taking time to remember. Oh, who really am I? Because I'm caught up in everybody else's idea about me. I'm caught up in what you think about me right now, like literally right now. Is this landing? Am I doing good? Everybody getting it? Oh, what are you going to tell me? All right. Anybody think I'm doing bad? I don't want to hear from you. Don't want to hear from you. Nope, I don't. But we go through, it's like this. Then I start to wake up to who I really am. Like, what am I? I'm anxious a lot. All this feedback from the world. There's so much going on, and there's 7 billion of us in our own consciousness and our own way that we meet the world. And So how do I mitigate that? How do I heal? I think I said this last time, something I heard a long time ago too. I have to have a hermetically sealed time of stillness and silence where I'm communing right here. And that, my friends, is where spiritual liberation takes place. Because I want to entertain you when I come up here. I do. I want something I say to stick, and I want it to be meaningful to you, and I want to have an impact. Partly for my ego, sure, but mostly because I want us to be free. But this generally, in my experience of being around churches I'm 48 years old, I've been in church for 40 of those years, probably 35 of them in some sort of leadership. I kid you not, since I was like 13 years old, church was just my jam. I just like, I'm going to lead somebody. Anybody there? And so I just got on the inside of church and I just started like churching. And everything church. We'd go to church, in church. And then I became 19 and then I was an advisor in the teen group, right? Like I'm advising 18, it's just like I just did that. Where was I going with that? What was I saying right before that? What was I saying? I do this once or twice just to make sure you're paying attention. Are you listening to me? What was I saying? Well, I know that's ultimately it for sure, Gene. No kidding. Man, see, I got too caught up in the story. Man, and it was good too. I was coming to a point. I'll come back to it, I think. So let me get to actually what I wrote down that I want to share with you. So This is the quote that I actually came up with when Peggy asked me earlier in the week, what do I want to talk about this week? What do I want to offer? I was talking with my partner, Barry, who's sitting in the back, and we were talking about the transition. We were talking about teenagers, actually, and the transition from being a child and what the magicalness for a lot of us, the magic of being a child, and then what it means to transition through the teen years into adulthood. And how some of us do it gracefully, but there's not necessarily a whole lot of structure that's set up to do it gracefully, so that when we get to an adult, we behave like adults. And I'll tattletale on myself all day long. I can throw a tantrum better than all of you in here. I can throw a tantrum like I'm a little child. Believe it. So here's the quote. It's from 1 Corinthians 13. You've probably heard it. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became what it says in the scriptures, when I became a man, or when I became an adult, I put away childish things. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, when I became an adult, I put away childish things. How do children behave? Anyone? Impulsively? Very much in the now, right? How else? Selfishly? Myopically? Inquisitively? Absolutely. The viewpoint of children, and I'm raising one right now, we're raising one, is the world is very much right here. There are moments when she sees something or her heart gets big for an animal or somebody else, and she's, oh, we got to go save the bird. I'm like, okay. But most of the time it's, I'm going to get mine, right? And that's how children behave. It's very much what's in front of us, and I need to get my needs met. Now, I don't know about you, but I can get into that mind frame, that mindset often. And this philosophy espouses that. Let me get mine. I need to demonstrate X. I need to manifest Y. Sound familiar? The prosperity gospel. More, more, more. Without taking a moment to breathe into what is the remix. Without taking a moment to breathe into where I live. The United States of America. And if you've traveled at all, from a prosperity standpoint, generally speaking, it's very easy here. That prayer's been answered. I don't know how. Geography, fate. But having traveled around a little bit, I've seen on the streets of Accra, Ghana, a mom on the side of the road with a brand new baby breastfeeding, sitting on the side of the road. Is there poverty in the States? Absolutely. That's a sermon for another time. Right now, I want us to get into our awareness what we do have, because in this particular philosophy, we get caught up in more, manifesting more. As soon as my daughter opens up her Christmas presents, what's next? What's next? As soon as you manifest that car, it's going to be fun to drive for a couple of days, but what's next? We don't take the time to have the consciousness of, I won't say it as an adult necessarily, but a spiritual maturity, where we grow ourselves into an awareness and appreciation for what is. Look where we are this morning, gathered together in community. Look at what is. sitting in a warm place with love, being bathed by the music of Gene. That's a blessing, man. Woman, that's a blessing. To look out and see the eyes of people that we care about and that we're grateful to be with. And a woman, Deborah, who just, you can stand to the shower of her prayer and feel the cleansing of it. That's a blessing. It's a gift that we have right now. But I have to catch myself all the time. Am I in the moment appreciating it, or waiting for more, or wanting to manifest or demonstrate more? That's what a child does. And it's something that we work on in our house, is just appreciation for what is. See, I had growing up in maybe this was part of where I was going with this, I'm not sure. But back to that story about the church and churching and doing all the churching, it was all just easy. It was all just there. And it's really in those times when we start to get our heart broken that we start to see what's going on. It provides context. Where it's not all just easy, right? It's not just, life isn't about just flowing and everything's, that's the fantastical thinking. That's the fantasy. If I just pray about it hard enough, I'm going to demonstrate it. Really? Is it working? I had a conversation with somebody else just recently. Ooh, I know if I really know we're going to win the lottery because I'm just going to get my mindset right. I mean, for real. It doesn't work. That's child thinking. Forgive me if you still believe in Santa. It's the Santa Claus principle. I think I've shared with you before that I've waited I actually would wait for my blessings to show up in the mailbox. I actually had fantastical thinking at various points that my blessings were just going to show up on my front door. It doesn't work like that. We operate in a system of principle. And I'm going to let Ernest Holmes tell you about it a little bit more. We're going to hear from Ernest Holmes a little bit more today. This is from page 3 at the very beginning of this book, this thing called You. Deborah, it's an extraordinary book, fundamental to the spiritual walk. If you have not read this, I highly encourage you. This is like a hot cup of cocoa on a chilly winter's eve. We are all some part of a universal order. The very urge for personal gratification is incomplete until it finds a universal outlet. This is the cause back of all upheavals in human history. The pattern is trying to fit the pieces into greater and greater units as though it could not accomplish its purpose through anything other than a democracy of spirit, a union of all. You start to get a sense why my selfish desires, they're not all going to be manifested. There's be chaos out here. There's a harmony in spirit. There's a universal order, and if you study any sort of scripture, this is scripture. The Bible isn't, we've heard it as scripture. When you hear scripture, it's like the Bible. Scripture's, it's something that it's scripted. It's scripture. This is scripture. Any scripture, when you look at any scripture, it always talks about a harmony and a universal order of things, and it's necessary for each one of us to get into alignment with it, to be as water and flow with it. That we're not recreating God. God is the way that it is. Our entire mission is to understand how the Spirit works and what it really is, not to redefine it. That's where pain comes in. Trying to redefine God, I'm trying to create God. God created us in its own image and likeness, and we've been trying to return the favor ever since. That's that principle. Trying to recreate God or play God rather than the humility of checking my ego, my I am, and bringing it into alignment with the universal I am. That's spiritual practice. is the humility enough to sit on the cushion in those times of hermetically sealed stillness and silence to actually get all of my personal wantings. And it's not bad to want a car or bad to want money or bad to want a relationship. That's all fine. But we take time instead of trying to overpower life with our desire to demonstrate something and get into alignment with the way principle works. And then we see that there's a tranquility that comes along with our demonstrations. Not look how I overpowered that person or look how I overpowered life and I got my way, but I'm not at peace when I put my head on the pillow at night. But I don't have a softness of being with my fellow man and my fellow woman. I got what I want, but I was an ass about it. This union, however, does not mean sameness. For while unity requires conformity to principles, unity never means uniformity. You get to be you. Sparkle and shine, baby. Every blade of grass, every crystal, every drop of water, every snowflake, like every individual, is a little different from any other one of its species. You are different, you're supposed to be, and yet within the one, getting aligned with principle. Humanity is made up of innumerable individuals, no two alike, and yet society, as a complete whole, moving gradually towards some ultimate goal. What could this goal be other than that everyone, while remaining individual, shall become like Gene? It says it in here, watch. While remaining individual shall find a more complete expression in and among all other individuals. Is that what Gene said earlier? That's what he said. I know I'm doing what I'm born to do. While remaining individual shall find a more complete expression in and among all other individuals. The prayer that's on your heart that we talked about at the beginning, that thing that's there, that yearning for a greater expression, is this. It's the God of your heart, the spirit of all that is, saying, come home, baby. Come home. I miss you. It's the prodigal son story. I'll go out and create some context. I'll go out and see all the ways that it doesn't work, but let me come home to how it does. And then there's a sweetness and appreciation about it. This has been the dream of the ages, that the lion shall lie down with the lamb, and a little child shall lead them. As Jesus said, that they may be one even as we are one. Even as they are many, we are one. So I want to leave you with this. What seems like a paradox, because any spiritual inquiry you'll find paradox. Two seemingly different things that are both true at the same time. That's life. It has to be life because we live in an infinite, so anything's got to be possible. So your truth and my truth can exist in the same time, and we don't have to kill each other about it. Right? Like, let me just be in my truth, and you're just going to be in your truth, and we're going to celebrate each other. I was talking to some friends the other night. We were up to see some music, The Far Side. Anybody listen to The Far Side? I was up at the Rail Yard, hip-hop group that I grew up with. Anyway, we're talking about music and how growing up, friends are funny, aren't they? They're like, yeah, I love The Far Side. Oh, well, I love this and that. What? You think they're the best group ever? Please. Are you kidding me? That music sucks. Like, why do we got to convince each other that we're right? It all can exist at the same time. Why don't I celebrate it? All right, you love Tchaikovsky's Fifth, and I love, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. No, you're wrong. That music sucks. Why can't it both be true? That's why Tchaikovsky wrote the music, right? Because there was an urge within him to create. And I've been to see that music. It's powerful. Genius music. But so is Snoop and Dre. And I've seen that too. And it might not speak to your heart, but it speaks to somebody. Celebrate them celebrating it. You don't have to celebrate it. Celebrate them celebrating it. MYOB. It's big in our house growing up. Mind your own business. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became an adult, I put away childish things. We live as a community. There's billions of us out here. That's a big number. But if you look to the stars and the heavens, they haven't found the end. And the numbers that they're coming up with blow your mind if you try and wrap it around it. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of us. So we can become adults in a mature relationship with our spirit and get in alignment with spiritual principle, get in alignment with truth, and celebrate our truth, and know that when someone else seeking to demonstrate their good, we celebrate that as well. The other thing Jesus said was this: to enter the kingdom of heaven, become as a child. To enter the kingdom of heaven, become as a child. But when I was a child, I spoke as a child, and now I'm an adult, and so I put away childish things. Childish things. But the awe of a child, the inquisitive nature of a child, the appreciation of a child, to become into the kingdom of heaven. Mature spirituality in getting in alignment with how principle works and the harmony of the universe, while simultaneously becoming as a child in awe and appreciation for what it is, who you are, and how it works. Now consider again one more time what's on your heart. That place you're ready for a revolution, a psychic change, a transformation of being. Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a deep breath. Remember, you placed that idea, that space, that place where you're ready for a revolution, a transformation, a change. You placed it there. Now, just check back in with it and take a deep breath into that area of your life. Now add unto it the idea of mature spirituality, applying spiritual principle, getting an alignment with spiritual principle and the way it works, and the awe and the appreciation and the innocence of the child consciousness. Take another breath, deep down into the belly. And so it is.